The twin suns were setting over the valley, painting the alien sky in deep gold and violet. The settlement of the Vera was alive with evening sounds, yet the air was tense. People gathered in the square where judgment was always carried out. The tall stone pillars, carved with the history of their kind, cast long shadows across the open ground. Aaron, a human who had lived among the Vera for only a short time, stood near the edge of the crowd. He had come to this world as a worker and trader, someone who wished for peace and learning. Though he was not one of them, he had been accepted with cautious tolerance. He admired the Vera's discipline and unity, but he also feared the severity of their laws. Today, he saw that severity unfold before his eyes. At the center of the square stood Lyra, a young Vera woman with bright eyes and a quiet strength. She was accused of carelessness. A fire had broken out in one of the grain stores, and though no lives were lost, food for the coming season had been damaged. Witnesses had said they saw her near the building before the fire started. The elders, bound to tradition, declared her guilty. Her punishment was 10 stripes across the back. The law was firm and once declared. The decision could not be undone. Aaron watched as the elder with the white crest of age stepped forward. His voice was heavy and final. Lyra, daughter of the Vera, for neglect that has brought harm to the people, you will bear the 10 stripes. May this serve as a reminder that duty must never be forgotten. The crowd was silent. Some nodded in agreement. Others looked uneasy, for many knew Lyra as kind and careful. Yet no one spoke. Aaron felt his heart tighten. He had lived long enough to understand that silence could sometimes be the loudest cruelty. He remembered his own home on Earth, where mistakes were judged, but mercy was still possible. He could not stand and watch as an innocent person suffered for something she did not do. Lyra stood tall, though her hands shook slightly. She did not cry or beg. She knew that resistance would bring worse punishment, perhaps even exile. Her brothers were not present in the square, away working on the river defense. Alone, she faced judgment. The guard stepped forward with the whip, its lashes sharp and cruel. Aaron felt his chest burn. His legs moved before he could stop himself. He pushed through the crowd, and a wave of whispers followed him. "Why does the human walk to the circle?" someone muttered. "What is he doing?" another asked. Aaron reached the center and raised his voice so all could hear. His voice was steady, though his hands trembled. "Elders, if punishment must be given, then let it fall on me." The square erupted with shock. The elder narrowed his eyes. "You are not Vera. You are outside our law. Why would you take stripes meant for another?" Aaron met his gaze without fear. "Because she is not guilty. And even if she were, no lesson is taught by breaking someone who already carries no blame. If the law must be carried, then strike me instead." Gasps rose around them. Many shook their heads, some in disbelief, others in awe. No outsider had ever offered such a thing. Lyra's eyes widened. She spoke softly but firmly. "No, Aaron, you cannot. This is not your burden." Aaron looked at her and shook his head. No one should carry this burden tonight. The elder was silent for a long moment. His eyes searched Aaron's face as though trying to read the truth of his heart. Finally, he nodded. "Very well, human. If you choose this path, then you will carry the 10 stripes. Let all here see that you take this upon yourself." The guard looked uneasy, but obeyed the elder's command. Aaron removed his outer garment and stood with his back bare beneath the twin suns. He clenched his jaw, readying himself. The first stripe fell. Pain like fire shot across his back. He staggered, but did not fall. The second and third came quickly, sharp enough to make the crowd flinch as if they themselves felt it. By the fifth, blood welled where the lashes had cut. Aaron bit down on a cry and held himself straight. The people murmured. Some covered their mouths. They had seen many punished, but never with such silence, never with such refusal to break. By the 7th stripe, Aaron's breath came in ragged gasps. Sweat and blood mixed down his back. His knees trembled, but he forced himself to stand tall. He thought of Earth, his mother's words when he was young. Sometimes you stand not because you are strong, but because someone must stand. The 8th and 9th stripes tore into him. His vision blurred. Yet when the final stripe fell, He raised his head high. His back was torn and burning, but his spirit remained unbroken. The elder raised his hand, and the punishment ended. It is done. The law is carried. His voice trembled for the first time, though he hid it well. The guard stepped back. Silence filled the square. Aaron turned slowly and faced the crowd. His chest rose and fell with heavy breaths. He did not speak, for words were not needed. His actions had already spoken louder than anything he could have said. Lyra ran forward, tears in her eyes, though she tried to hold them back. She placed her hands on his shoulders, careful not to touch the wounds. "Why would you do this?" she whispered. Aaron gave her a tired smile. "Because it was right." The crowd began to murmur again, but now the whispers were different. They carried respect, confusion, and something new, admiration. The human had taken pain that was never his to carry, and in doing so, he had changed the way they looked at him. That night, Aaron was carried back to his small dwelling. Lyra stayed by his side, tending to his wounds with gentle care. She worked with water and healing herbs, wrapping his back with cloth. "You should not have done it," she said again, though her voice trembled less. "The law would not have killed me. I would have endured." Aaron winced as she pressed the cloth to his back, but shook his head. "Maybe so. But sometimes, to endure is not enough. Sometimes, to endure only teaches others that cruelty is allowed. If I could stop that lesson from being taught, then I would do it again." Lyra fell silent, watching him with new eyes. She had seen many humans before, workers and travelers who passed through. None had done what he had done today. Something in her heart stirred, a mixture of gratitude and wonder. Outside his dwelling, the whispers continued. The Vera spoke late into the night of the human who bore the stripes. Some called it foolishness. Others called it courage. A few began to wonder if perhaps there was more to the human spirit than they had believed. In the silence of that night, as the twin moons rose, a story was born. It began with pain and ended with a spark of respect. A spark that, though small, would soon spread like fire across the hearts of many. And so the first part of the tale was written, not in words, but in blood and endurance. A human had chosen to suffer for another, and nothing in the valley would ever be the same again. The dawn came quietly over the valley. The twin suns had not yet climbed high, and a pale silver mist lingered around the stone pillars of the settlement. The people of the Vera rose early, as they always did, but this morning their voices carried softer tones. They spoke of the night before. They spoke of the human. Inside his small dwelling, Aaron stirred awake. His back throbbed with pain from the stripes, each wound burning when he shifted. The bandages Lyra had placed held fast, though the cloth was stained with red. He tried to rise, but the pain forced him back down. He breathed slowly, reminding himself that he was still alive. His choice had been worth it. The door covering moved aside, and Lyra stepped in, carrying a bowl of warm water. Her eyes were weary, for she had not slept much, but her movements were steady. She set the bowl down and began to clean his wounds again. Aaron winced, but said nothing. "You should rest," she whispered. "Your body needs time to heal." Aaron gave a faint smile. "And you should rest too. You stayed here all night?" She shook her head. "I could not leave after what you did. The people talk about you. Some call you reckless. Others call you brave. They cannot decide which is true." Aaron closed his eyes for a moment. "Let them decide whatever they wish. I did not do it for their voices." Her hand paused over the bandage. "Then why?" He opened his eyes again and looked at her. "Because I saw someone about to suffer without reason. I could not stand aside. If pain was needed to satisfy the law, then I would carry it. That was enough for me." Lyra said nothing for a while. She dipped the cloth in the bowl and pressed it gently against his back. Though her hands were firm, her eyes softened when she looked at him. As the day moved forward, word spread beyond the square. In the river fields, workers spoke of the human who stood against the whip. In the market, traders whispered his name, wondering what it meant for their people. The act had unsettled many, for it was unlike anything they had seen. The Vera valued order, strength, and loyalty to law. Yet this outsider had shown a new kind of strength. one that was not written in their traditions. By midday, 3 figures entered the settlement. They were tall and broad, with markings across their shoulders that showed their family line. They were Lyra's brothers Darrow, Sen, and Merrick. They had returned early from the river defense after hearing the news. The square grew restless as the 3 walked with firm steps, their expressions unreadable. Darrow the eldest carried himself with the pride of a warrior. His eyes were sharp and his jaw set like stone. Sen the second was calmer, his face thoughtful though serious. Merrick, the youngest, moved with a mix of anger and confusion, for he did not know whether to feel shame or gratitude. They went first to the elder's house to confirm the truth. The elder told them what had happened, his voice calm but heavy. Your sister was declared guilty. The punishment was 10 stripes. Before it could begin, the human stepped forward. He chose to take the stripes himself. We let him. He did not fall. The brothers exchanged glances. Darrow's eyes hardened. And the people call this courage, the elder nodded slowly. Many do. Darrow frowned. Or perhaps they call it foolishness. Why should an outsider take pain for one who is not his kin? Sen placed a hand on his brother's arm. Yet he did, and no one can deny it. Merrick asked quickly, Where is he now? He rests, the elder replied. Your sister tends to him. The 3 left the elder's house and walked toward Aaron's dwelling. The people parted to let them pass, for all wished to see what would happen next. Inside, Lyra looked up as her brothers entered. Her face tensed, for she could see the storm in Darrow's eyes. Do not wake him, she said softly. He needs to heal. But Aaron, though weak, opened his eyes when he heard the footsteps. He saw the 3 figures and knew at once who they were. Slowly, with effort, he pushed himself to sit upright. You are her brothers, said quietly. Darrow stepped forward, his arms crossed. We are, and we want answers. Aaron's voice was calm, though his body shook with pain. Ask them. Why did you do it? Darrow's voice was like a blade. Why would you stand in the circle and take what was never yours? Aaron drew a breath. Because it was wrong? Because she should not have carried stripes for a crime she did not commit. Darrow narrowed his eyes. And what of us do you think we could not defend her honor ourselves? Do you think we are weak? Aaron shook his head slowly. I think you were not here. And I think she was alone. Someone needed to stand for her. That is all. Merrick stepped closer, his voice uncertain. But you are not Vera. You are not of our blood. Why would you risk yourself? Aaron met his gaze. Because sometimes being human means seeing beyond blood. Pain is pain, no matter whose back carries it. I could take it, so I did. Sen studied him quietly. His sharp eyes softened as he watched Aaron speak. He could see no pride in the human's words, no hidden plan, only plain truth. Sen turned to his brothers. He speaks as one who believes what he says. Darrow still bristled, unwilling to let go of his suspicion. Belief is not enough. What if he seeks favor? What if he wishes to bind our sister to him with debt? Lyra stepped forward at once, her voice firm. No, brother. He asks nothing. He has spoken of nothing but justice. Aaron lowered his head, tired from the effort of speaking. I want no reward. I only want a world where the innocent do not suffer while others stay silent. For a moment the room was quiet. The 3 brothers looked at one another. Merrick's anger lessened. Sen's respect grew. And even Darrow's hardness cracked, though only slightly. They left the dwelling without another word. Outside, the people waited, but the brothers spoke little. Only Sen murmured, This human is different. That evening, as the suns dipped once more, the settlement was attacked. A band of raiders from beyond the valley charged in. Seeking to steal supplies and test the strength of the Vera, shouts rang out. Weapons clashed, and flames rose. Despite his wounds, Aaron heard the cries and forced himself to his feet. Lyra tried to stop him, but he shook his head. I cannot lie still while others fight. He staggered outside, picking up a staff to support himself. The brothers were already at the front, blades flashing as they defended their people. Darrow fought fiercely, Sen guided the defense with calm orders, and Merrick battled with raw strength. Yet the raiders were many. Aaron pushed through the chaos, striking with his staff when he could. His movements were slower, his body weak, but his spirit burned. When one raider swung at Merrick from behind, Aaron stepped forward and blocked the strike, taking the blow on his staff. The impact sent pain through his body, but he held firm. Merrick turned in time to strike down the attacker. He looked at Aaron, eyes wide with shock. The human, wounded and bleeding, saved him without hesitation. The fight raged until the Vera united, forced the raiders to retreat into the night. The settlement was scarred but safe. When silence fell at last, the brothers gathered again. Darrow looked at Aaron, breathing heavily. He saw not weakness, but a courage that did not bend, even in pain. Sen placed a hand on his chest, bowing slightly. Merrick could only stare, unable to speak. The people whispered once more. The human who had borne stripes had now stood in battle, shedding more blood not for himself but for others. As the twin moons rose, Lyra stood beside Aaron, steadying him as he swayed with exhaustion. The brothers stood nearby, their hearts torn between pride and humility. The night had shown them what words alone could not. The human had risked everything twice in 2 days. And slowly, their hearts began to change. The day after the raid was heavy with silence. Smoke still lingered above the settlement, where fires had been put out in the night. People walked slowly, tired from the fight, but their voices carried a new weight. They spoke not only of the raiders, but also of the human who had stood with them, despite his wounds. Some called it madness, others called it courage, but no one denied that it had left an impression. Aaron sat outside his dwelling on a wooden bench, his back bandaged. The pain had not lessened much, but he forced himself to move around instead of lying in bed. To him, pain was less important than showing that he was not broken. Children peeked at him from behind walls, whispering to each other, but when his eyes met theirs, they quickly ran off. Laughing nervously, Lyra stayed close, checking his wounds often. She said little, but her eyes revealed her thoughts. She could not forget how he had stepped into danger twice, first in the square, then on the battlefield. He had risked himself for her, then for her brother, and in both times he had stood firm. By mid-morning, the three brothers came again. Their steps were heavy, and the people followed at a distance, curious to see what would unfold. Darrow walked in front, his jaw set, as if carved from stone. Sen moved beside him, calmer but watchful, while Merrick trailed slightly behind, his hands tightening and loosening in restless motion. When they reached the dwelling, Darrow stopped in front of Aaron. His eyes were sharp, and his voice carried the edge of challenge. "Human, we have seen your actions. We have seen you suffer for our sister and fight beside us. But I still ask why. Why take stripes not meant for you? Why shield Merrick when your body was already broken? Tell me the truth." Aaron looked up at him. His face was pale, but his gaze was steady. "I told you before. No one should carry pain for what they did not do. Your sister was innocent, and I could not watch her punished. And when the raiders came, I saw your brother in danger. I could help, so I did. Nothing more." Darrow frowned. "Nothing more? You expect me to believe there was no hidden purpose? Outsiders always have reasons. They seek favor or trade or power. Do you think kneeling in blood will make you one of us?" Aaron shook his head slowly. "I do not care about being one of you. I care about what is right. If standing for others is called foolishness, then I accept it." Merrick stepped forward, his voice rising. "Brother, he saved me. You saw it? I would not be here if not for him. Is that foolishness?" Darrow turned sharply to his younger brother. "Do not let your heart be swayed so quickly. Gratitude can blind as easily as anger." Sin lifted a hand, trying to calm them. "Enough. Let us hear the man. If his words are truth, they will stand without defense. If they are lies, they will fall apart on their own." Darrow crossed his arms, but said nothing. His eyes stayed on Aaron, searching for weakness. Aaron drew a breath. Speaking was harder with the pain in his back, but he kept his voice steady. I am not strong like your warriors. I am not bound by your law. But I have learned one thing. Sometimes silence is worse than pain. When we stay silent, the innocent suffer. I could not stay silent. For a long moment, no one spoke. Even the people watching from a distance waited without sound. Sen was the first to break the silence. His tone was thoughtful. He speaks plain. There is no pride in his words. Only truth. Merrick nodded quickly. I believe him. I felt his hand on the staff when he blocked the strike meant for me. No one pretends at such a moment. Darrow's jaw tightened, but he did not argue. He turned his eyes away for a moment, staring at the horizon where the smoke of the raiders still marked the sky. His voice was lower when he spoke again. Perhaps you believe your own words, human. But belief does not change the fact that you risked your life for one who is not your kin. That is not our way, Aaron answered quietly. Maybe that is why it had to be done. To show another way? The word struck deeper than he knew. Darrow's pride wrestled with the image of the human standing in the square, refusing to fall under the whip. And the memory of him stepping into battle, bloodied but unbroken. For the first time, doubt entered his certainty. The brothers turned to leave, but Sen paused. He looked back at Aaron and said, Rest. The days ahead will test us all. And if your heart is as true as your words, then the people will see it. That evening, the council of elders gathered. The raid had shaken the settlement, and they spoke of defense, of unity, and of the strange role the human had played. Some elders argued that he had no place in their matters, that allowing him to take stripes was already against tradition. Others said his actions had stirred respect among the people, that perhaps his presence had strengthened them more than law ever could. The debate stretched long into the night. Outside, the people sat in small groups, sharing stories of what they had seen. Children repeated the tale with wide eyes, while traders spoke of carrying the story to other settlements. The legend of the human was already spreading beyond the valley. Inside his dwelling, Aaron sat by the small fire. Lyra sat beside him, quiet but close. She looked at him for a long time before speaking. My brothers are proud. They do not bend easily. But today I saw something new in their eyes. They may not say it, but they are beginning to see you differently. Aaron gazed into the flames. I do not need them to see me in any way. I only need them to see what is right. Lyra tilted her head. And what is right, Aaron? He thought for a moment. That no life is worth more or less because of the blood that runs through it. That standing for another is not weakness, but strength. Lyra's eyes softened. You speak as though you carry the weight of many years. Aaron smiled faintly. Perhaps pain teaches faster than time. The night grew colder, and silence filled the dwelling. Yet both knew that the story had only begun. The raid was not the end of their troubles. More trials would come, and with them, more choices. The brothers would struggle with pride and gratitude. The elders would wrestle with tradition and change. And the people would decide what kind of future they wished to build. For now, Aaron rested, knowing that tomorrow would bring new storms. And though his body was weak, his spirit was ready. He had shown them once that humanity could endure pain. He had shown them again that humanity could fight when wounded. The next test would demand even more, and he would not turn away in the quiet night. As the twin moons crossed the sky, the Vera settlement stood at a turning point. Between old laws and new truths, between pride and respect, between suspicion and trust. One human had become the question no one could ignore, and the answer would shape not only his fate but theirs as well. The days after the raid were uneasy. The people of the Vera worked hard to repair the damage. Yet even as walls were rebuilt and stores were restocked, fear lingered in their hearts. Everyone knew the raiders would come again, perhaps in greater numbers. The valley that had once felt safe now seemed fragile. Aaron walked among the workers, though his wounds had not healed. Each step sent pain through his back, but he refused to stay inside while others labored. He carried stones, passed water, and offered quiet words to those around him. Some looked at him with pity, others with doubt, but more and more with respect. His presence reminded them of the night he had stood, first against the whip, then against the raiders. Lyra stayed close, often helping him when the pain became too much. She did not speak of what she felt, but her eyes said more than words. She had seen him risk himself twice, and now she watched him push through suffering again. It's not for himself, but for the people. The brothers watched too. Darrow, the eldest, struggled the most. His pride was heavy, and though he could not deny what he had seen, he still resisted giving honor to a human. Sen observed with calm thought, weighing every action carefully. Merrick, the youngest, was the quickest to change. Gratitude for Aaron burned strongly in his heart, and he no longer hid it. One evening, as the sun sank low and painted the sky red, the council called for a gathering. The people filled the square, waiting for the elders to speak. The elder with the white crest stepped forward, his voice deep and clear. "The raiders will not forget their failure," he said. "They will come again. We must be ready. Our defenses must be stronger, and our unity must be stronger too. We cannot stand divided," the crowd murmured. Some nodded, some whispered with worry. Then another elder spoke, her voice sharp. "And what of the human? His presence breaks tradition. He stood in our circle of judgment and bore stripes meant for one of us. He fought in our battle, though he is not bound by our law. Do we accept this, or do we turn him away before more confusion spreads?" At once, voices rose on both sides. Some argued that Aaron had brought only strength. Others claimed he had disturbed the old ways. The debate grew heated until Sen stepped forward. His calm voice cut through the noise. "Elders, people of the valley, I have seen the human with my own eyes. I have seen him take pain when he could have stayed silent. I have seen him shield my brother when he could have stayed safe. Judge him not by his blood, but by his deeds." Merrick followed quickly, his young voice filled with fire. "Yes, without him, I would not be standing here. I owe him my life. We all saw what he did. Can any one of you deny it?" The people stirred. Many nodded, though some still hesitated. Darrow stood behind his brothers, silent, his arms crossed. At last, the elder with the white crest raised his hand for quiet. "Then let the human speak for himself," he said. Aaron stepped forward. The crowd parted as Aaron walked slowly to the center. His back ached, but his head was held high. He looked around at the many eyes upon him and then spoke. His voice simple and steady. "I did not come here to change your ways," he said. "I came as a worker, a guest. But when I saw injustice, I could not stand aside. When I saw danger, I could not turn away. If that breaks tradition, then I am guilty. But no, this your laws did not bind me, yet I still chose to act. Not because I am Vera, not because I wanted honor, but because it was right." His words echoed in the square. For a moment, silence covered the people. Then, slowly, voices began to rise in support. One by one, more of the Vera spoke of the respect they felt. Some admitted they had doubted him, but could not deny his courage. Darrow felt his chest tighten as he listened. Pride told him to resist, but another voice inside him whispered that Aaron spoke truth. He remembered the human standing in the circle, blood on his back, and then again on the battlefield, weak but unbroken. He could not erase those images. Before Darrow could speak, a scout ran into the square, his voice urgent. "Raiders. They come again, and not few. Dozens ride toward the valley." Fear swept the crowd. The elders shouted orders. Warriors ran for their weapons. The gathering broke apart as the people rushed to prepare. Aaron turned to leave, but Darrow stepped in front of him. His eyes burned with conflict. "You are hurt. You cannot fight again. Stay back this time." Aaron shook his head. "If the raiders come for this valley, they come for me too. I will not hide." Without waiting, he moved past Darrow, picking up a spear from the weapon racks. His hands trembled from weakness, but his grip was firm. The brothers gathered, weapons ready. Sen looked at Aaron and gave a small nod of respect. Merrick clapped him on the shoulder, saying, "Then we fight side by side again." Darrow said nothing, but he took his place beside them. The raiders came like a storm. Their cries echoed across the valley as they charged. The Vera met them with shields and spears, the clash shaking the ground. Arrows flew, blades struck, and fire spread as torches were thrown onto roofs. Aaron fought at the front with the brothers. Though his body was weak, his spirit was fierce. Each movement sent pain through his wounds, yet he did not falter. When a raider broke through the line toward a group of children, Aaron was the first to run. He placed himself between the raider and the young ones, blocking the blow with his spear. The weapon snapped, but Aaron held fast until others came to drive the enemy back. Sen guided the warriors with steady commands, keeping their defense strong. Merrick fought with passion, every strike carrying gratitude for the man beside him. Darrow, fierce and proud, cut down raider after raider, but his eyes often turned to Aaron, watching the human endure beyond reason. At the height of battle, a massive raider leader pushed forward, stronger and larger than the rest. He struck with a heavy blade, scattering warriors before him. The people faltered, fear spreading. The leader roared, charging toward the heart of the defense. Aaron saw him coming. Without thinking, he rushed forward, though his legs shook. He lifted a broken spear and stood in the path of the giant raider. The crowd gasped, for it seemed madness. The leader swung, and Aaron raised the spear to block. The force threw him back, yet he rose again. He stood once more, refusing to fall. His eyes burned with defiance. In that moment, Darrow's heart broke free of pride. He could not let the human stand alone. With a roar, he charged beside Aaron, striking the leader with all his strength. Sen and Merrick followed, and together the four fought as one. The battle raged. But with their unity, the raider leader was finally brought down. Seeing their leader fall, the raiders broke and fled into the night. When silence fell, the valley was scarred but safe again. The people gathered, their eyes wide with awe. They had seen the human stand unyielding against fear itself, and they had seen the brothers fight at his side. Darrow stood before Aaron, breathing heavily. His voice was low, but filled with new strength. "I was wrong. You are no outsider in my eyes. You are brother." Sen bowed his head in agreement. Merrick placed his hand on Aaron's arm with pride. The crowd watched as the three warriors, proud sons of the Vera, stood with the human not as stranger, but as one of them. The moment carried weight heavier than any law. The turning point had come. The human was no longer seen as outsider, but as part of their story. And in the hearts of the people, a new truth began to take root, that humanity, though small in number, carried a spirit strong enough to bind even the proudest of kin. The valley was quiet at dawn, the twin suns rising slowly over the horizon, casting long shadows across the rebuilt settlement. After the second raid, the people moved carefully, repairing walls, tending to injured and tending to fear that still lingered in their hearts. Yet among the Vera, there was a new feeling, growing a quiet respect, almost reverence, for the human who had risked himself not once, but twice. For their sake, Aaron sat on a stone bench near the central square, his back still healing from the stripes he had taken days before and from the wounds of battle. Lyra sat beside him, her hands steady as she applied soothing herbs to his bruised arms. She did not speak much, for words could not match the weight of what had happened. Her heart was full of gratitude and admiration, yet she knew the day ahead would demand more from them all. The settlement began to stir with activity. Traders prepared their goods, children played cautiously in the open fields, and workers carried stones and timber for repair. But a sense of anticipation lingered. Everyone knew that today was different. Today the brothers would confront their pride and honor in a way that could change the course of their community. Darrow, the eldest brother, approached first. His face was stern, but his eyes revealed uncertainty. Sen walked beside him with measured steps, calm but observant. Merrick, full of energy and emotion, followed closely behind. They stopped before Aaron, their bodies tall and proud, yet their hearts heavy with respect. Aaron rose slowly, wincing as his back reminded him of past pain. He looked at the three brothers who had fought beside him and watched his endurance, and he knew they were here not for judgment, but for acknowledgement. Darrow stepped forward, his voice steady. Human, you have risked your life for our sister and for our people. You bore pain that was not yours. You faced our enemies when your own body was weak. Today, we honor you for your courage." The crowd in the square watched quietly, sensing the importance of the moment. The Vira had never knelt to another, and certainly never to an outsider. Yet there was an unspoken agreement that actions carried meaning beyond tradition. Slowly, Adaro lowered himself to his knees. Sen followed, bowing with measured grace. Merrick, unable to restrain his emotions, sank to his knees as well, his hands resting lightly on the ground. The people gasped and whispered. They had seen bravery before, but never humility from warriors such as these, and never toward a human. Aaron looked down at them, his eyes steady, yet his heart felt the weight of the gesture. He had never sought honor. He had never desired recognition. He had acted because it was right. Yet seeing the brothers kneel, he understood that respect could sometimes speak louder than any words or laws. Lyra stepped forward, placing her hands on her brother's shoulders. Her voice was soft, but filled with meaning. "My brothers recognize what I have known. This human stands for more than strength. He stands for what is right, for what is just, for what binds us together." The people in the square began to murmur, and then slowly, one by one, they joined in a gesture of acknowledgement. Heads bowed slightly, voices spoke words of respect, and a sense of unity spread like warmth across the settlement. Aaron felt the change. The walls of suspicion and tradition had been broken, placed by a recognition that humanity carried a spirit worth honoring. The elders approached, their faces thoughtful. The one with the white crest spoke first. "This day, we have witnessed deeds that exceed law. We have seen courage that binds us all. Let it be known that the human, Aaron, shall be remembered not for his blood, but for his heart and his deeds." Aaron shook his head gently. "I seek no titles. I ask no memory. I only acted as any would if they could. I do not wish to be set above anyone. Let my actions be remembered only as a choice to do right." Darrow's eyes softened. Even the choice to do right can inspire. Even the simplest act of courage can become a story that teaches generations. The people began to gather around, offering nods, quiet words, and small gestures of acknowledgement. Children ran up to Aaron, curious and amazed, while adults whispered their thanks. For the first time, humans were not outsiders to these people, they were allies, companions, and examples of what it meant to act with honor and heart. Lyra held Aaron's arm gently. "Your deeds will live in our stories," she said. "Not because you sought glory, but because you taught us what it means to stand for another." Aaron looked around at the settlement he had come to know, at the brothers kneeling before him, and at the people whose eyes now held admiration and respect. He felt something he had not expected: belonging. Not because he was Vira, not because he had been given honor, but because in the act of standing for others, he had become part of something greater than himself. The sun climbed higher, bathing the valley in golden light. The people went about their work with renewed energy. The fear of the past replaced by hope. The memory of the raids remained. But so did the courage of one human who refused to look away as the day ended. Aaron walked through the settlement with Lyra by his side. The brothers had returned to their duties, yet their heads were held differently now. They carried not only pride, but understanding. Understanding that courage and compassion could transcend law, blood, and tradition. The story of Aaron would be told again and again. Children would whisper it as they played in the fields. Elders would recall it when debating law. Warriors would remember it when training for battle. And the valley would never forget that one human had shown them the strength of heart that made humanity extraordinary. In the quiet of night, as the twin moons rose once more, the settlement rested in peace. For the first time, humans and Vira stood as true allies, bound not by law alone, but by respect, courage, and choice. And in the hearts of all who had witnessed it, a legend had begun: the tale of a human who bore pain for another, and in doing so, earned the kneeling of proud brothers. Aaron did not seek their bows or their honor. Yet he understood now that the simple act of standing for what is right could change lives, bridge worlds and inspire a future where courage, compassion, and humanity were remembered above all else. The valley would flourish. And so would the story of a human whose heart had become stronger than any law, mightier than any weapon, and brighter than any fear.